Welcome to the Global WarWatch Network. We're so glad you're here. We're all about breaking down the most critical global events. So if you want to stay ahead of the headlines, go ahead and hit that subscribe button now. It really helps us out. All right, today we are right on the razor's edge. We're going to unpack the high-stakes standoff between the U.S. and Iran. It's a wild story of brinkmanship and secret back channels. You know, all the headlines are screaming about a new war in the Middle East. But what you might not know is that behind the scenes, quiet talks are moving forward. The big question, though, is what happens next? It could literally change everything.
So let's start with where we are right now, and that is on the brink. A peace summit has just collapsed, there's a naval blockade in place, and honestly, the entire world is holding its breath.
Okay, picture this. It's April 13th, 2026. Right now, U.S. warships are enforcing a full blockade on every single Iranian port. And no, this is not a drill. This is the direct fallout from high-stakes peace talks that collapsed just hours ago in Islamabad. Diplomacy, for now, seems to be off the table. So how on earth did we get to a full-blown naval blockade? I mean, it's a huge step. To understand that, we've actually got to rewind the clock a bit, back to 2025. And take a look at how this whole diplomatic dance even began. Right. So this all really kicked off in April of 2025. President Trump sent a very blunt letter to Iran's supreme leader. The ultimatum was simple: agree to a new nuclear deal in just 60 days. And when that deadline passed in June, he made the threat public, saying, quote, "Make a deal before there is nothing left."
And just look who was at the table for this. The U.S. sent in a real heavyweight team. You had VP JD Vance, plus trusted envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. On the other side, Iran sent their top diplomat, Abbas Araghchi, and the incredibly powerful parliament speaker, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf. I mean, these weren't just negotiators. These were the people who had the real power to stop a war before it started.
And you know, at first it really looked promising. Iran put a pretty detailed three-stage plan on the table. It was a step-by-step process. First, they'd scale back their nuclear program. In exchange, they'd get sanctions relief. It would all culminate in their entire enriched uranium stockpile physically leaving the country. It looked like there was a real clear path to a deal here.
But that deal just never happened. And when diplomacy failed, things escalated with terrifying speed. The military track completely took over.
This timeline really shows just how fast it all unraveled. So talks start in April 2025. By June, that 60-day deadline is missed, and bam, Israel launches what they call the 12-day war. Things go quiet for a few months, and then they just explode in February 2026 with a full-scale U.S.-Israeli air war. And that leads us right to the fragile two-week ceasefire we're in right now. And this just captures the sheer brutality of that conflict. This wasn't just about hitting military targets. Those opening strikes on February 28th were a decapitation attempt. They killed not just Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, but also Ali Larijani, one of the key negotiators who is actually trying to prevent this very war. Which brings us right back to the present, into one last-ditch effort for peace during this incredibly fragile ceasefire, what's being called the Islamabad Gambit. With war literally on the horizon, both sides agreed to one more meeting. So why did this last-ditch effort fail? Well, this slide just lays out the massive unbridgeable gap. The U.S. demanded a 20-year ban on enrichment. That's a long-term security guarantee. Iran countered with just a single-digit year ban. They wanted to keep their options open. The U.S. wanted all the highly enriched uranium physically removed from the country, their biggest bargaining chip gone. Iran offered only to downblend it, but keep it on their own soil. These weren't just small details. These were fundamental issues of security, sovereignty, and pride. And that failure in Islamabad is what leads directly to this, the Hormuz showdown. And why should you care about a diplomatic collapse in Pakistan? Because the economic fallout is global. And trust me, it's happening right now. It all comes down to this one number, 21%. That's how much of the entire world's oil supply sails right through this single, narrow choke point. To put that in perspective, that's 21 million barrels of oil every single day. You choke this off, and the entire global economy feels the pain almost instantly. And that is the weapon the U.S. is using right now. This blockade is designed to cost the Iranian regime an estimated $435 million a day. Let's be clear, This is economic warfare, pure and simple.
Which leaves us right here, in this incredibly tense moment. Talks have failed, a blockade is in place, a ceasefire is about to expire. The ultimate question is just, what is the next move?
Well, despite the total collapse of the talks, the lead U.S. negotiator, Vice President JD Vance, is trying to project optimism. He actually told reporters there really is, I think, a grand deal to be had here. So his public stance is that progress was made and the ball is now in Iran's court.
And so that's the question just hanging over everything as the clock runs out. While mediators are scrambling behind the scenes to pull both sides back from the brink, we're all left to wonder, is that grand deal even possible anymore? Or have we already passed the point of no return?
Well, thank you for joining us for this explainer on the Global WarWatch Network. If you found it valuable, the best way to support us is to just hit that like button, share it with a friend, and of course, subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And we really want to know what you think. Is a deal still on the table, or is it too late? Let us know in the comments below, and please join the conversation on our social channels. All the links are waiting for you in the description. We'll see you next time.